The War College Strategy Room is a cavern of maps and glowing screens, the air tense with the buzz of young officers competing for dominance. Brass plaques line the oak-paneled walls, whispering of centuries of victories carved by men whose portraits still stare down from gilt frames. Into this hall walks Lieutenant Sarah Hale, 28, her hair pulled back in a tight braid, her uniform plain, her expression unreadable. She carries nothing but a battered notebook pressed against her side. The moment she enters, the atmosphere shifts, not with respect, with laughter. "Translators here!" A cadet sneers from the back, slamming his fist on the desk. "Somebody give her a dictionary!" Chuckles roll through the room, one voice louder than the rest. Captain Darren Cole, tall, broad-shouldered, polished boots gleaming. His family name is legendary in military circles. He leans back in his chair, arms folded, his voice dripping contempt. "She belongs behind a desk," he declares. "Not in a war game. What's she going to do, conjugate verbs at the enemy?" Laughter erupts again, cruel and echoing. Sarah doesn't react. She sets her notebook down, her hands steady, her eyes scanning the massive map projected on the front wall. Red markers advance against blue positions in a simulated urban siege. The red forces are overwhelming the blue. The instructors stand at the edges of the room, silent, letting the humiliation play out. Major Benton, the grizzled trainer overseeing the exercise, clears his throat. A scar slices across his jaw, his voice gravel and iron. "Each of you has 10 minutes to propose adjustments. If your plan fails, your unit fails." He lets his gaze pass over the room, but it lingers on Sarah with thinly veiled disdain. "Let's see if our desk translator has more to offer than subtitles." The words sting sharper than laughter. The others smirk openly now, emboldened by authority. "Maybe she'll order us coffee," one cadet mutters. "Better chance of that than a strategy." Sarah's jaw tightens, but she doesn't respond. She opens her notebook and begins sketching lines in clean, deliberate strokes. Cole notices, his grin widening. He stands, striding toward her desk with theatrical bravado. His voice rises so the entire room can hear. "Tell me, Lieutenant Hale, do you even know what a flanking maneuver is? Or do you only translate them into French?" The room roars. Chairs scrape as cadets lean in, savoring the spectacle. Sarah keeps writing. Her pen doesn't pause. Cole slams his palm down on her notebook, pinning the page under his hand. "I asked you a question." Finally, Sarah lifts her eyes. Calm, steady, dark as a storm, not yet broken. "I know what a flanking maneuver is," she says softly. "Do you?" A ripple of silence cuts through the laughter, sharp as glass. Cole blinks, caught off guard, but before anyone can react, he bursts into a bark of laughter, masking the unease. "She's got jokes," he sneers, stepping back. "Too bad jokes don't win battles." The others laugh again, but it's thinner now, forced. Sarah lowers her gaze, continues writing. The stakes are laid bare in the colonel's next words. "The war game tomorrow will determine postings. Fail, and you'll be reassigned. Success means advancement, recommendation to the general staff. This is your chance to prove you belong." He doesn't look at Sarah when he says it, but the implication is clear. Everyone hears it. A Spanish cadet leans toward Cole. "Reassigned? Perfect. Send her back to filing reports." Cole grins. "If she lasts that long." Sarah turns a page in her notebook, her movements slow, deliberate. She sketches new arrows on the map, counter movements no one else sees. Her silence becomes her shield, her weapon. But in the snickers and jeers, one question hangs unspoken. What if the desk translator sees something the rest of them don't? The instructors exchange a glance, subtle but sharp. They've seen this before, underdogs mocked until the truth bleeds out. Sarah doesn't notice, or perhaps she does, but hides it well. She simply closes her notebook, places her pen neatly across the cover, and waits. The room simmers with derision, but beneath it all, the game clock ticks forward. The siege looms, And the translator, dismissed, ridiculed, humiliated, sits quietly at the edge of the storm, carrying a weapon none of them expect. A mind sharp enough to turn defeat into victory, but not yet, not here. For now, she endures the jeers. For now, they believe the lie. The humiliation is complete. The stage is set. Morning arrives with the clang of boots on marble. The War College halls echo with ambition. Young officers bark theories, swapping battle plans like trading cards. Sarah Hale walks in quietly, her notebook under her arm, and instantly the air tightens. Captain Darren Cole is waiting. He leans against the doorframe, arms folded, his smirk sharpened into a blade. "Morning, translator," he calls, loud enough to turn heads. "Got us any subtitles today?" Laughter ripples through the hall. One cadet pretends to fumble with an invisible headset, whispering, "Copy that, over." Another mimics typing on a keyboard, smirking. Sarah doesn't rise to it. She slips into her seat, opens her notebook, begins writing. But Cole isn't done. He strides forward, pulls her notebook right out of her hands, and flips it open like it's contraband. The page shows dense tactical sketches, lines, arrows, counter movements. Cole scoffs. "What is this? Desk doodles?" He holds it up for the others. "Looks like she's planning crossword puzzles." The room bursts into laughter, cruel and sharp. He slams the notebook back onto her desk, the sound like a gavel. "Newsflash, Hale," he sneers. "The battlefield doesn't speak your language." The humiliation deepens. Later that afternoon, the cadets gather in the simulation wing, a circular chamber with holographic projectors casting a war zone in glowing detail. The blue team struggles. Red forces advance through narrow streets, trapping units in choke points. The room buzzes with frantic orders, everyone shouting at once. Sarah studies the map quietly, noting every mistake. Cole notices her silence. He seizes the moment. "Don't just sit there, Hale," he snaps. "Why don't you translate the explosions for us?" The room erupts again. Some cadets double over laughing. A few pound the table. One officer mockingly points at the holographic red markers. "Boom in French, Hale. Boom in German." Sarah's hands tighten, but she keeps her eyes on the simulation. The insults sting, but she doesn't blink. Cole grins. He has the room in his grip now. He points at her headset on the table. "Better idea? Fetch coffee. At least then you'll be useful." A hush falls for a second, cruelty landing heavier when wrapped in authority. Even the instructors remain still, letting the moment hang. Sarah doesn't move. She picks up the headset, places it gently on her ears, and goes back to monitoring the board. The mockery has escalated, sharpened, bared its teeth. By evening, the cadets spill into the mess hall. The long tables rattle with trays, the air thick with voices. Sarah sits alone at the far corner, her food untouched, her notebook open beside her. Cole chooses the moment to strike again. He strolls past her table with a group in tow, his voice rising like a trumpet. "Hey, Hale," he says, pointing at her tray. "Don't forget to translate your dinner. Looks like mystery meat in 3 languages." The group bursts out laughing. One cadet bangs the table, another whistles mockingly. Someone shouts, "Paper soldier," and the chant spreads, soft at first, then louder. "Paper soldier, paper soldier." Sarah closes her notebook quietly, sets her fork down, and stands. Her chair scrapes across the tile, cutting the chant in half. The mess hall quiets, waiting for her to break, to lash out, to collapse. She doesn't. She picks up her tray, carries it to the return station, and leaves without a word. Her boots echo down the corridor, steady, measured, unbroken. The humiliation has reached its peak, but behind her calm steps, the storm gathers. The others don't know it yet, but the war game tomorrow will not play out the way they expect. The strategy room hums the next morning. Screens glow, projecting the siege simulation in brutal detail. Red forces press harder, surrounding blue units in 3 districts. Failure is seconds away. Cadets bark orders, their voices clashing. Cole stands at the center, commanding loud, confident, but his tactics falter. Blue markers flicker, units collapsing one by one. Major Benton's voice booms over the chaos. 2 minutes left. If no one turns this around, the exercise is a failure. Murmurs ripple through the chamber. Careers teeter on the edge. This war game isn't just a test. It decides postings. A failure here means exile to backwater assignments. Cole slams a fist against the desk. Push the western flank harder. The holographic board stutters. Blue icons charge, only to be cut down by a hidden line of red artillery. The screen flashes unit destroyed. Gasps break out. Sarah sits quietly at her console, her headset glowing. She studies the map, her pen racing across her notebook. Her eyes don't flinch. She sees the trap. She sees the flaw. Cole notices her writing and sneers. Don't bother, Hale. This isn't a translation exercise. Stay in your lane. But Benton's eyes narrow. He steps closer. What are you seeing, Lieutenant? The room turns. Every eye fixes on her. The jeers hover, ready to pounce. Sarah lifts her notebook slowly. Clause Delta 7, she says softly, pointing at the screen. Urban choke points. They've left a blind corridor. Cole laughs. A blind corridor? That's nothing but rubble. Sarah's voice sharpens. No. Look at grid 14C. Satellite feed shows collapsed structures. But the alley runs deeper. It leads straight to their supply convoy. The room stills. Benton snaps his gaze to the map. Fingers fly across the control panel, magnifying the sector. Sure enough, the alley glows faint on the projection. Unmarked. Overlooked. Gasps ripple through the cadets. Cole's smirk falters. Sarah continues, her tone steady, clinical. If we reroute the 3rd Battalion through here, they can bypass enemy armor, cut supply lines, and force Red to retreat within 3 minutes. Benton looks at her notebook. Precise sketches, timed arrows, ratios of fuel to distance, calculations lined in neat ink. This isn't guesswork, Benton murmurs. It's a complete rewrite. Cole sputters. She's bluffing. That alley's suicide. Benton ignores him. He issues a command. Test it. Redirect 3rd Battalion, grid 14C, now. The simulation recalculates instantly. Blue markers surge down the narrow corridor, weaving past rubble, emerging behind the enemy line. The red supply convoy shatters. Icons flicker, turning gray. Red forces collapse from the rear. The siege unravels. In less than 90 seconds, the entire red advance crumbles. Blue holds the city. Victory achieved. The room is silent, stunned. Sarah lowers her notebook, her expression calm. It was there the whole time, she says quietly. You just had to look. Benton stares at her, eyes hard but burning with respect. You just saved this exercise. Cole's jaw tightens. His face burns crimson. He opens his mouth, but no words come. For the first time, the laughter is gone, replaced by something heavier, a dawning recognition. The desk translator just turned the war game on its head. The simulation chamber resets. Fresh red markers flood the map, regrouping for a counteroffensive. The cadets shuffle nervously. Blue's victory feels fragile, like glass about to shatter. Major Benton's gravel voice cuts the air. Good save, Lieutenant Hale. But one corridor doesn't win a war. Show me it wasn't luck. Cole seizes the opening. Exactly. She stumbled into it. Let's see her pull another miracle out of her dictionary. Snickers ripple through the room, but they're weaker now, less certain. Sarah doesn't flinch. She flips to a new page in her notebook, pen gliding fast. Numbers, angles, timed intervals. The red forces advance again, heavy armor leading the charge. Cole barks for artillery fire. The simulation responds. Blue shells streak in, exploding against red tanks. But Sarah shakes her head. Waste of rounds, she says softly. Cole wheels on her. What did you say? She speaks louder, her tone precise. They're baiting you. Look at their spacing. Tank spread, infantry lagging. Fire now and you hit empty steel. The real threat is grid 22E. Look. Benton magnifies the sector. Hidden among civilian structures, a swarm of red drones lies dormant, undetected by most. Gasps echo across the room. Cole's face pales. Sarah's pen taps her notebook. Target the drones first. Without them, their armor loses cover. Blue can strike back clean. Benton hesitates only a second. Then he gives the order. Redirect fire, grid 22E. The simulation erupts. Blue artillery rains down. The drones ignite, chain reacting in a fiery burst. Red armor suddenly sits blind, exposed. The cadets gape at the screen. The second proof is undeniable. Cole sputters. Lucky guess. But Benton's gaze hardens. He leans forward. No, that was trained eyes. Only someone who studied enemy doctrine would notice that spacing. The room shifts, weight tilting toward Sarah. Yet she isn't finished. Her pen scratches faster, looping arrows across the map. She speaks calmly, her voice cutting through the rising noise. Third proof, they'll counterstrike from the east, grid 9F. But their logistics are stretched too thin. If we rotate the reserve units here, she draws a sweeping arc, they'll collapse within 4 minutes. The projection updates. Blue reserves swing east, slamming into red forces mid-charge. The red line falters, then disintegrates, collapsing across the entire map. The simulation flashes. Blue victory. Record time. Silence. Benton stares at the board, his jaw set. Then he speaks, each word deliberate. In 15 years of running this exercise, I've never seen a cadet dismantle it so completely. The cadets look at Sarah with new eyes. The mockery is gone. Awe creeps in heavy and sharp. Cole tries one last time. She can't keep this up. She's just a translator. Benton cuts him off like a blade. She's a strategist, and the finest I've seen. The room stills, the verdict hanging heavy. Sarah closes her notebook, her expression calm, but her eyes blaze with quiet fire. The validation is complete. The translator has become the tactician. The chamber plunges into silence, the glow of the screens painting every face pale. The war game is over. Blue victorious. A record shattered. Major Benton steps forward, his boots echoing. He fixes Cole with a stare sharp enough to cut steel. Captain Cole, your plan failed in 12 minutes. Lieutenant Hale rewrote it in 2. She carried this exercise. Cole's jaw clenches, his hands ball into fists. She just got lucky. One alley, one guess. Benton's voice booms, final and unyielding. Luck doesn't rewrite battle doctrine. Skill does. The cadets shift uneasily. Their sneers, their laughter, now hang like chains around their necks. Every cruel word they'd thrown at Sarah echoes in the silence. Sarah doesn't gloat. She doesn't smirk. She simply gathers her notebook, stands, and faces them all. Her eyes sweep the room, steady, calm, merciless. You called me a translator, she says softly. But war speaks in patterns, and I speak that language better than any of you. Her words fall like a hammer. Cole's face drains of color. For the first time, he has no retort, no sneer, nothing. Benton nods once, slow, deliberate. Lesson learned. Underestimate her again, and you won't just fail a simulation. You'll lose a war. The silence deepens. No one laughs now. Sarah closes her notebook with a quiet snap. 3 words leave her lips, calm, sharp, final. Checkmate in ink. The War College chamber empties slowly, cadets filing out in silence. No one dares look Sarah in the eye. The same mouths that laughed hours ago now stay shut, their arrogance stripped bare. Major Benton remains, standing at the edge of the room. His gravel voice carries across the empty space. Lieutenant Hale, you just dismantled a scenario designed to break seasoned officers. You've earned more than respect. You've earned trust. He salutes her. The gesture is brief, but it lands heavier than any applause. Sarah returns it, her face calm, her braid catching the light as she turns to leave. Each step is steady, deliberate. The notebook at her side no longer looks battered. It looks like a weapon. Outside, whispers trail behind her, not sneers anymore, but awe. The desk translator has become the name no one forgets. So next time someone underestimates you, remember Sarah Hale. They mocked her notebook. They called her a translator. But in the end, she rewrote the war. Now it's your turn. Comment below with a moment when someone underestimated you and how you proved them wrong. I might share your story in the next video.